I just gotta hand it to Raw. I just want to give it a slow clap to Raw. And before we get into Raw, I think we gotta introduce. Speaking of, because we talked about him a second ago. We went to Raw with him last week. Let's introduce. You want to introduce?
That nigga can wait.
Right? We're about to get into conversation right now.
I mean, we are, but we needed a camera guy. But anyway,
okay.
No, I'm just playing.
Okay.
No, we got our very first guest of the new year. He'll be making an appearance to talk in our weekly segment, which is a subset of your high spot. Raw was it was a good show. And the highlight of a good show brought on our guest.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Right,
so it's a little teaser for y'all. You feel me? For those who fuck with us, who wanna, who know a good radio tease. I listen to much sports talk radio.
So let's stay tuned. Right now, I'm gonna get into Raw and why Raw was my high spot.
Okay.
Raw was my high spot this week simply because it was put together to make a wrestling fan happy. It was a show where you can watch from beginning to end. There's something for everybody. There's comedy. It was a variety show of a high caliber. You know, and I'm not just saying that because, we got Finn Balor versus Brock. I'm saying in the way they built the night. It started off with Braun Strowman getting booked out of the match with Brock Lesnar. He rips off Vince McMahon Carter's door. Braun gets a huge spot. And I think if you're going to book Braun out of a spot, that's a way to do it that I can say, all right, that's creative. And if you're going to put it on Finn at the end of the night, and you're going to build this little man, giving him 2 matches in a row, having him go over and pin Cena in a fatal 4-way with Drew McIntyre and Baron Corbin, I thought was a real complete show, and it ended on a high note. It ended with something that we wanted to see. Raw pulled us through the show. Like, Raw really did pull us through the show. It wasn't like one of those weeks where it's like, oh my God, the main event hasn't. We're not at 11 o'clock yet. Like, it's not like we're not like praying to end the show. Like, we're like, there's a lot of times you go to bed before Raw's even done because you don't want to see the main event. Like, you just you check out. This main event and the way they built the main event, they bookend the show. They tease you with the Braun thing, and Vince says he's gonna solve it by the end of the night. Comes out halfway through, books the main event. The main event happens. You see Finn in a match before the main event to give him that steam going into it, and then at the main event, finally you get this 4th Fatal 4-Way, which was epic. We didn't know if Drew was gonna win it. We thought maybe Finn, maybe John Cena was gonna have a match with Brock. We all knew Baron Corbin wasn't winning that shit, but it was a way that I haven't felt for Raw in a while, so it got me excited. But in between all that, we had one moment that
we got a motherfucking time. Nigga, I just been waiting. You was yap, and I let you get it off because my nigga gotta get it off. You feel me? But the only thing that mattered on that 3-hour show, Lashley. My motherfucking dog. Fam, it's been a long ride and roll for you, dog. And we have killed you on this here show.
Mm-hmm.
But for good reason.
For good reason. Yes.
But just like a nigga, you steadfast. You overcome adversity.
With the almighty power.
With the almighty power of the Almighty himself. Allah. Praise be. You are our new black Intercontinental Champion. And to celebrate this moment with us, we're going to bring in Cousin Rich, our special guest of the evening. Yeah. Everybody, I want everybody to welcome Cousin Rich to the goddamn stage, to the show, whatever the hell this is.
We're talking about day one.
Come on, this is...
He is a real day oneer.
Yeah, Cousin, come on, Scooter.
Along with all you guys, too, because if you're within our first year, you're a day oneer in my book. But, Rich, you're with us.
Dog.
Yo, if you see our Instagram, we popped hard for this moment on Raw. And, yeah, just take it away. What do you think about Lashley winning the Intercontinental Championship in that triple threat?
That thing was amazing. Man, I felt like that was like my big bro that won the title, man. Like, because we weren't expecting it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that added to it. That added to the allure.
Yeah. I thought we said Dean was going to win that. We all
thought Dean was going to win. Now, again, just like Chris always says in every show, like, no, we rooting black. So,
yeah.
I mean, we all were rooting for Bobby. But we all sitting there like, all right, well, he going to lose again. So, when we started watching the match shift a certain kind of way, it's like, oh,
yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it going to happen?
Yeah.
And then it finally happened, and we lost it.
We completely popped. I think that moment right there, I think is because he worked hard. Even through all they put him through, he was a good sport. He worked his ass off. He didn't get injured, and I think also this win, I think Leo Rush is just as much Intercontinental Champion as Bobby, because without Leo Rush,
absolutely,
Bobby doesn't get the heat that he gets.
Right.
I mean, he could probably do it on his own, but they didn't go that route. They gave him Leo Rush, and Leo Rush put that work in to get him that heat.
Yeah, and shout out to Leo Rush and the YouTube little segment that they had, and deemed this the misunderstood era. And how Bobby is a hero. How Bobby should have been receiving the cheers and the adulation. And he did when he first came.
It's exactly what he was. He was misunderstood by
He was misunderstood.
higher ups.
Exactly. He was misunderstood. And, man, representation matters. I can tell you that. I know Black Twitter, Black Wrestling Twitter, for that matter, was a stand-up moment. So, having Bobby win an Intercontinental title, we've booked Black Bobby 100,000 times on this episode, on this podcast. So,
probably more than anybody.
Yeah. So now we legitimately have a reason to book Black, and we're not going to do it this week. We're going to do it next week. We're going to wait and see what this Intercontinental reign is, see if Dean want a rematch. Right. But for right now, man, this is an opportunity for us to celebrate. Like I said, we've killed Bobby on this show, man.
Rightfully so, though.
Rightfully so. I mean, but again, man, we just needed to see that. We needed to see that presence,
Yeah.
We needed to have that moment for us.
We do.
And like to see,
and as a performer, the way I look at Bobby as a performer, he performs. He's super athletic, and he's a fucking monster. So it's like you're not getting an in-ring athlete that's Seth Rollins, or it's gonna have this technical match. He's a certain niche kind of